Thank you. Well, we're going to try and keep you awake this afternoon here, so here we go. Well, where do we want to go? Well, I think we want to go toward a sustainable food and ag system. And where are we headed? I think we need a few course corrections. So how do we get the resilience into the system that we're talking about? I think the biggest thing that will have an impact on that is political will. And what's the biggest obstacle? Lack of political will. So how are we going to get this farm and food policy that will get us there? I think if we look around the world, the places where there's the most hunger, we see dysfunctional governments. In other words, there's a lack of agricultural research and extension. There's no financing and land tenure available for the producers, a lack of infrastructure. In other words, there's a lack of producer incentive, and of course, in many cases, a lack of consumer purchasing power. So all of those things are contributors to hunger. So we need, I think, a farm and food policy in this country. We have a democracy, a representative form of government, which means that we have to have people educated to the need for this food and ag policy. So the land-grant universities certainly play a role in that. And ASI is going to have an undergraduate curriculum in sustainability. All of those things are what we need to build the support to get this national food and ag policy. Because I think it's going to need to be a loud voice. The people who are entrenched, who are the entrenched beneficiaries of the current programs, are not going to give up those programs easily. So there has to be something in it for them, as well as those of us who are saying we want a sustainable system. We have to be able to convince them that it's in their benefit as well to make some changes in the current food policy. Some people say, well, we have a national food policy. We have a farm bill that Congress and the administration agree on every 5 or 6 or 7 years. But that's not, I don't think that's farm policy. That's trying to patch things up for the next 5 years. That's not strategic planning for food and agricultural policy. So we need the research funding. We've talked about that. We need the conservation programs, and we've been gradually increasing the funding and the programs for conservation, soil quality, water, air quality, biodiversity. If we want all of those things, we're going to have to make sure that there are people speaking up for them. How do we get more producer incentives, in other words? Resource availability. In other words, profitability for the producers. That has to be part of the sustainability, of course, from the producer point of view, in addition to making sure that he has the resources to do everything he needs. When we look at the ecosystem, diversity is more resilient. So I think we need diversity in agriculture as well. There needs to be room for all sizes of farms, different organizations. I think we've seen what can happen with concentration. We've certainly seen it in the financial system, where we have organizations that are so large that we can't let them fail. We know we have concentration in agriculture and the food system, in processing, animal processing, poultry processing, in the supermarket chains. So I don't think we want to end up with 5 farms in the United States. So we need to make sure that we have that diversity in order to make sure that we have the resilience that it's going to take. To me, this is a national security issue, that we need to have food production in this country. We need to have local and regional food production where it works, where it makes sense. But the more we have of that, the more resilient the system will be. With large concentrations, we've seen in some of the cases of the food safety issues. It's so easy for one small slip up in food safety to have a huge impact because of the way our system is concentrated and organized. So again, the more diversity, the better. Now the problem is that someone has to pay the full cost of food production. And right now, mostly the consumer prices reflect only the direct costs of that food production. They're not paying for the external costs. And more farmers and ranchers are being expected to protect the health of the soil, protect water quality, air quality, to enhance biodiversity, to make sure their workers are well taken care of, and participate in their community and hopefully be profitable. So the price of food doesn't pay for all of that, so somebody has to pay for it. So that's why we have these government programs. The public has to participate if we're not going to have high food prices. So the public has to participate in other ways through these government programs: conservation, research, carbon credits, energy, renewable energy production. Then we come down to the issues of land availability. Certainly here in California, I think we have a big challenge because we know what we've done to the Los Angeles basin, LA and Orange County. I think most of you probably know that 50 years ago, Los Angeles was the #1 agricultural producing county in the United States. We paved it over. Well, we paved over the Santa Clara Valley and the Silicon Valley. And we're starting to do that in the San Joaquin Valley. Well, I know maybe, as Professor Howard said, maybe water is going to be the limiting issue. I think that most of these technical problems we can solve if we have the political will. I don't think that we can let the marketplace determine all of this. I think we have to figure out a way to put a value on this local food production. California has a Mediterranean climate, which allows us to produce 50% of the fruits and vegetables grown in the United States, most of the nuts, most of the processing tomatoes. I don't think future generations will look kindly upon us if we pave over the Central Valley, or if we abandon it and let it to go to open space. This food production, I think, is a national security issue. So how do we get there? The California Department of Food and Agriculture is in the process of developing a vision for agriculture for the state. So we'll be working on that. But we need the land-grant universities to provide the information and to develop the rationale so that we will be able to develop a national food policy.